Welcome back, episode 88 of the Resistance broadcast, brought to you by StarWarsNewsNet.com. I'm your host, Patrick Covey, also known as Gannon136 on the website. Hope you guys are enjoying this wonderful Monday. We're going to be talking some Star Wars with you guys. Joining me once again this week, welcoming in the leaders of the Resistance, Mr. James Bainey. How are you doing tonight?
Oh boy, I am doing good, man. I'm excited once again to talk about the wars that take place in the stars. Let's get started, guys.
And joining us once again this week, he's a pretty cool dude, Mr. Bill Sheehy. How are you doing?
Pretty cool dude here. Happy to be here. I have actually, since the news that Han Solo got a title, I have just been playing Star Wars Connect, the dance game, playing I'm Han Solo over and over again. So that's how I've been spending my week. So thanks for listening. Happy to be here.
You have to start those dance moves sometimes for us.
Exactly, I will.
And he's the man on the scene. He was just at New York Comic Con. We were talking about that last week, but he's back once again. Mr. John Hoey, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm back again. It's great to be back. Hopefully by the time you guys are listening to this, the Yankees are in the World Series. But in terms of Star Wars, we have a big show today. We have Steven Stanton doing an interview with us, so we're really pumped about that. And just a lot of news and stuff I want to get into, so let's talk Star Wars. So fired up to be back here.
And Star Wars we will talk. Kicking it off this week with poll results, we asked you guys on Twitter, why does Luke appear dark in The Last Jedi theatrical poster? 3% of you said Luke turns dark side. 10% of you said starts dark, then finds light. 40% of you said uses dark and light sides now. And 47% of you winning this poll said it is just pure misdirection. And the best comment came from Debbie Anderson at Dragon Debbie, and she said, Luke starts the movie in an emotional dark place. He is filled with remorse over his perceived failures and doubts his connection to the Force. Guys, does he doubt his connection to the Force in this film?
No.
I doubt it, and that 3% that voted that he's going dark was 3% way too much for my taste, so yeah.
I mean, it's a great comment by Debbie, but I think there's mixture there. I think he is going to be emotionally torn, but I don't think he has any doubts about his connection with the Force.
Yeah, I don't think the connection to the Force is really the issue, but I do think it's just like kind of a existential crisis. What does it all mean? What am I doing here? What am I supposed to be as the Last Jedi? You know what I mean?
Did they confirm that Luke is the Last Jedi? Did they?
Yeah. I think Ryan, he's confirmed it a couple of times now. Like, he thought, like,
I was legit
yeah,
like, John, what?
Like, well, I saw on Reddit. They said on Reddit that Luke's the Last Jedi, so I wasn't sure if that was true or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Reddit is 100% accurate. All the time. Every time.
What do we got for next week, man?
Our poll for next week will be, what do you think the outcome of the Phasma versus Finn fight will be? Your first option will be, it will end in a stalemate, then it's Phasma beats Finn, Finn beats Phasma, or someone else interferes in a way that they don't get to finish the battle. So let us know what you think out there in the Twitterverse. If you have an interesting insight into this, please leave a comment below. We might actually talk about it on our next podcast. Now we're going to send it over to James for Newsnet.
The great Ron Howard has spoken, dare I say for the last time. With principal photography finished, Opie took to Twitter to tell us about it. Unfortunately, he still referred to the movie as the untitled Han Solo movie, and that pushed him over the edge. Asking if he could share the title already, he officially let us know that Solo, a Star Wars story, is the name of the film. Bill, I'm going to ask you, do you like that name? Or if you don't, what would be an alternative title, in your opinion?
We had called it the untitled Han Solo movie so often that, like, I kind of, like, saw this on Twitter earlier that, like, yeah, let's just keep it as the untitled Han Solo movie. That makes more sense than anything.
Who loves hashtags more than you, so?
That's true. Hashtag one take Sheehy. Anyway, so yeah, my concern is, why did it take so damn long for them to tell us that? Like, that literally feels like one focus group meeting. It was like, okay, what do we name this? How about Solo, a Star Wars story? Done. But they waited whenever all the Phil and the Lord stuff happened and all the director change. They waited this long to tell us? Once again, I'm excited for this movie, but like, why take so long to tell me that's the name of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I feel kind of like that because the longer they waited, the more we were expecting some Shakespearean title, you know?
Yeah,
And when he flipped that card around, it was just like, brrr, psh, and then all the drum pieces fall, and it's like,
well, that's...
Is there another card? Did Chewie give you the wrong card? But I mean, I'll learn to love it just because I do with anything with Star Wars. I love it, but I wish they did something more like a nod to like Indiana Jones, like Han Solo and the Kessel Run, or even something like an old serial throwback, like The Adventures of Han Solo, or something like that. And I guess they had to try to fit it in with the a Star Wars story thing, but I don't know. It's an anticlimactic title. I don't love it, but I'll grow to like it.
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty uneventful at first, and then people started to tell me that, hey, maybe there's the option that maybe it's not just Han. Maybe there are other solos in this film, and they wanted to keep it as vague and as broad as possible to say, we're focusing more on Han, but there's the possibility others will show up. I know it's pretty stupid of me to say that, but...
It wasn't the...
I think it's all in the name, man. Solo. There's one. Yeah, only one.
Why didn't they name it after his real name, like Bob Iger was talking about?
Yeah.
Like, how come it's not Joe Smith, a Star Wars story?
It's not the untitled Han Solo family film. It's the untitled Han Solo film.
Yeah.
I do kind of like an alternative title being Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I think that would be a great title for it.
Indiana Jones and the untitled Han Solo film.
No. Yeah, exactly.
I think another good title would be Great Kid, Now Don't Get Cocky. A Star Wars story.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I'm kind of underwhelmed by the title, and I think you guys said it. Like, it was something that we were kind of expecting. Well, not expecting that title, but I think we all kind of had it in our heads that, yeah, this was the Solo movie or the Han Solo movie or something like that. So when they finally revealed the title, it was kind of lackluster. We're like, oh, shoot, well... Again, like, why did you take it so long to tell us? You know what I mean? It's not like all of a sudden now we're being pulled away from talking about Last Jedi or something just because we know the title. Not to mention, too, the whole, like, Red Cup thing was, like, Solo. So, obviously, from a long time ago, they had the name in mind, you know? Mm-hmm. So, the only thing I can think is they just maybe, like, forgot to name it, and then they did the same thing that we did, which is, like... got so used to hearing those words over and over and over again. They're like, well, let's just end up calling this thing what it is, and that it's just Solo. I hope they're not trying to play off of the, like, oh, it's such a good title because it could also work as, like, it's the Rogue One. Like, it's not part of the original trilogy. And, like, this other one is, like, a solo movie, you know? Like, I hope they don't try to stick to that theme every time because I see that not lasting very long. And
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A Star Wars.
It's called Obi-Wan, O-N-E. No.
Yeah.
I don't like the title for the main reason that I really hope it isn't. It almost sets a precedence on how they're going to continue to put the standalones, like Kenobi, Fett, Yoda. You know what I mean? And I feel like
Kenobi kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit better than Solo. Like, I feel like if you're going to do a Han Solo film, like, it should be some... I loved what John said with, like, Han Solo and the Kessel Run, or just naming it the Kessel Run would be okay with me if that's what it was going to be about. Granted, we don't know what it's going to be about.
It's like,
right. Exactly. Kenobi feels like if they were to name it that, it's a personal story. It's solely on him. Yeah, much kind of like Logan. I mean, that's this kind of the same kind of feel that would go for, but that's just talking about something completely different. Sorry, I got off track.
And you are talking about the Kenobi movie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So the point is like with this one, they decided to name it after him, but there's a lot of adventures. There's a lot of other characters. There's a lot of things that they could do with this that they could name it after. Whereas Kenobi is a very stripped down inner personal like journey character piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that seems a little bit more like they could name it after him.
Let's not forget they could name this movie Black Vest with Front Pockets, a Star Wars story, and it will make $400 million, $500 million.
That's true.
We'll all show up.
Yeah, exactly.
I would.
I'm not going to see that because I don't like that type of clothing. It's like, come on.
I've never liked blue pants with red stripes.
Blood stripes still canon. Hey.
What is that voice? I'm just trying to figure. Is that just pissed off Star Wars fan from like 1922?
Yeah, I have a cigar hanging out of my mouth and a big old mustache.
Well, yeah.
Don't forget your
Now
monocle.
now it's more Jimmy Stewart. Well, screw you.
Well, what do you guys think about the rumors that there might even be like a cut already of the trailer out there, like somewhere floating around? Do you think that's true? When do you think we'll see this?
It wouldn't surprise me if there was a trailer out there right now that's ready to be published, given that we've got a lot of big releases coming up soon, especially, there's Justice League, Thor Ragnarok, and especially The Last Jedi. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was like a rough cut that they kind of are getting stuff ready to show it off at The Last Jedi or in the next month or so. But I doubt that it'll release anytime in the next week or so.
I'm pretty confident that there probably is something cut, and I guess it's really floating around now. A lot of people are getting on board with this, that they already have something. And whether that's a small teaser showing his feet walking on board the ramp of the Falcon, or if it's actually something that shows him running around, who knows? But I am curious to see what they do, because if they want to hold it off until after The Last Jedi premieres to not confuse the general Star Wars public, like, wait a minute, he's back, he's young, what's going on here? Well, maybe we'll see it after, like around Christmas, after it like The Last Jedi comes out.
I think the movie going audience in general, if the people that are going to see Star Wars already know that Han Solo is dead. So I don't think that like it would be too confusing if they were to do it.
You'd be surprised. Some people are
so
I don't want to say people are dumb, but I will say that I was in the audience, or I was in the theater at Rogue One, and there were people asking like, "Oh, that's Rey," like, and I'm like, it's not Rey. Like, I don't understand. Like, how do you guys not get this stuff? Like, how are you in the theater and not being able to connect it? But I even have family members and stuff that just like have no clue. They don't like they went and saw Force Awakens, but they don't remember what was going on, in the movie. And I'm like, I'm just so inundated with it every single day that I think we just get so used to, how do people not know this? We talk about it every single day, and it's like, well, they don't talk about it every single day, and they might be confused by it. But I think the biggest thing about the trailer dropping is we have to look at two possibilities, really. Do they want to market the movie before The Last Jedi, or after The Last Jedi to separate it from that for the audience sake, or do they want to market it with The Last Jedi in order to get it in front of people who are already interested in that movie? Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
I think you want to build some confidence with this too, and if they feel confident in it, I think they'll probably do it with The Last Jedi to give it kind of that boost, because a lot of people are going to see The Last Jedi, obviously. Yeah. So it would make sense to me that if they feel confident in it and they think it'll do well and they're happy with the overall product, that they'll put it with The Last Jedi.
Okay. And the other thing that I was thinking about was that I truly believe that there is a cut of a trailer, because there's obviously people who are cutting dailies and they're putting things together all the time, right? There's no way that somebody hasn't at some point put together some like TV spots or something, or teasers, trailers, right? It's out there. So if we're landing on the idea of it coming out before The Last Jedi, are we talking days before, like literally right before, so that basically the first time people see it is when they go see The Last Jedi? Or are we talking a teaser on, let's say, Black Friday? Because that has worked for these movies in the past, to post like a little teaser out there on Black Friday.
I think they're either running it with The Last Jedi, or they're waiting until after The Last Jedi comes out.
Yeah. I do like the idea of a Black Friday release, because there's something special. Like, I have a special place in my heart for when they did the Black Friday with The Force Awakens. So I think that would be cool to wake up.
I'll never forget where I was when
I woke up and literally just refresh.
And I think it's smart, though, because there's a lot of people on the internet that day, a lot of people on their phones, you know what I mean? So a lot of people are going to be able to see it, and word travels pretty quickly because people are up, they're around, they're doing things, they're standing in line, so they have nothing better to do than to read their Twitter feeds and their news feeds and things like that. So if they see something that says there's a Han Solo trailer coming out, they're like, dude, I'm about to buy this washer for like $200 cheaper, and I'm about to watch a Han Solo trailer. You know what I mean? So that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it would be cool if like they showed it at the premiere too. Like that's the first place where they show it, like to critics and people like that. Where then like the people after the movie talking about, okay, well this is how it happened in the movie, but they also showed a Han Solo teaser before the film too. So I think it's certainly possible.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, so let's move from Han Solo, a movie that we don't really know that much about, into another movie that we really don't know much about, but we are starting to pick up a little bit of information. Our Episode 9 director, J.J. Abrams, recently talked with BBC and opened up about how he's kind of in a different place than he was when he made The Force Awakens. And he said, and I quote, "And at the same time, we have to take them to places that they haven't gone, and that's sort of our responsibility." Now, I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but he's basically saying it's our job to take these movies to a place they've never been before, right? Now, you don't have to be part of the BBC to get a decent scoop. A user on Reddit, which we uncovered recently, was a pretty credible source, recently posted a story about meeting JJ on the street and actually got a picture with him, so that actually is some proof there. But he was talking to him, and JJ apparently had a few things to say that about Episode 9 that lined up with what he had heard in the earlier interview. Basically, because there was a lot to say here, he was kind of paraphrasing JJ as well, but he basically said that he feels a little unleashed about the way that things are going so far. He hasn't really had any discussions with Kathleen Kennedy or the Lucasfilm Story Group, but that this will be the film that unites all three of the trilogies. John, I'm going to throw this one to you. When JJ says unite the three trilogies, do you think this is a step towards Lucasfilm embracing the prequels again?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess so. I guess it's kind of one of those, like, let's put everything together, round it out, because this is the new bookend. So in a natural way, everyone likes to have a complete set on the bookshelf. So you're going to have 1 through 9, and there it all is together in a happy little family. I'm not sure what he meant, and I'm not sure if this was JJ or Chris Terrio who told this guy this. And, I mean, who knows what this guy, how he interpreted it. And even the guy said, like, I may have kind of forced my love of the prequels on them, and they were probably being nice, saying, like, oh, yeah, totally. We're totally going to talk about prequels. Can we get this picture out of the way, please? Get this guy out of here. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that what JJ said to the BBC was kind of saying they were aware of what they did to revive Star Wars. He brought it back, and that was so important. The Force Awakens is so important, because if that doesn't hit, none of this is going on. But now it's kind of like, okay, we're running again. We're at full steam. And he kind of has Terrio with him, who has some, writing chops and writing muscle to kind of take this thing home, and maybe in a new direction in a way that JJ's not used to doing with movies. So I like everything that's here. It's obviously way early in the process, but it's all good things to me. And if they do round it out and bring some prequel stuff back, that's cool with me too.
Bill, what are you thinking on this? Do you think it has any insight into bringing the prequels back?
Well, they reference the prequels a very tiny bit in The Force Awakens, so I wouldn't be surprised if they brought it back even a little bit. These comments make me very, very happy. As someone who, the Star Wars movies I got to see in theaters growing up were the prequels. So kind of fusing those two together with the original trilogy and the prequels, and then bringing it together in the final movie makes a lot of sense. It makes my heart very, very happy, because once again, they hold a special place in my heart. But yeah, it just kind of makes sense too, because like John said, it's kind of a book set, and you want to have the complete set. And so it's, whether you like it or not, the prequels are a part of Star Wars.
Yep.
Love it or leave it, whatever you're going to do with it, it is a part of Star Wars. So it makes sense, if from a storytelling perspective, to use all the elements of previous stories to make it into something great, into a great conclusion to this trilogy.
You may not have invited Cousin Eddie to Christmas dinner, but there's still a chair for him because you need to fill the table. And that's Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is my Cousin Eddie.
Well, listen, at least there's something redeeming about Cousin Eddie. So
There's nothing redeeming about Cousin Eddie.
Stop it.
He does tell you when the shitter is full. God bless
The shitter was full, Jay.
The way he pronounces Speeder.
Pat, what do you think JJ is trying to say to this person on the street versus what he was trying to say to the huge corporation BBC?
I feel like the way that they're trying to kind of bring this around is that since the prequels came out, and a lot of the fans recently have shown that there is a lot of love for the prequels, I think Lucasfilm is starting to realize that, hey, like, it might not have gone the way we wanted to way back in the day, but now we really do need to round this story out. It exists. You can't pretend it doesn't exist anymore, because the way the story is going and the way it's driven, you're trying to go back into past elements. You look at episode 8, Rey and Luke are about to dive into these old, like, books about the Force and the Jedi and all these things. They're starting to delve into the past, and when you start delving into the past, that means you gotta include the prequels at some point, at some level. I feel like politically, especially if you're going to talk about the Republic, you almost can't get away with not referencing the prequels and what happened and how the Empire formed. So, if anything, embrace the prequels. Sure, does it have to be exactly like the way we remember the prequels? No. Make it your own. Make the sequel trilogy something great we will all love. But just at least tie these loose ends together. It bugs some of us every once in a while when we're like, you could have, like, shoved a prequel nod in there somewhere, and it just feels like you purposefully didn't. So that's just my take on it.
So we got two things happening here, in my opinion. Number one, we have the entire franchise of Star Wars trying to pick itself back up from the prequels, right? They're going to make episode 7. They don't know if it's going to go over or not because they just did 3 movies that the fans and the general public didn't receive very well, right? So they bring in JJ. JJ tries to make us familiar with the original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6. And he tries to kind of like familiarize the fans and member bury us into kind of bringing back those feelings, So there's that happens. But because that was such a good movie, the whole fan base started to get back into Star Wars. And in the process of getting back into Star Wars, we took another look at the prequels, and now we kind of looked at them through nostalgic eyes. And I think the fan base has kind of come around on that, and we're a little bit more accepting of those movies. Now, I don't know which is a worse situation to be in for JJ. Is it bringing back Star Wars on the heels of the prequels? That was a lot of pressure. Or is it going to be delivering us the final movie in this trilogy, which is the final movie in 3 trilogies? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that the fans have come around, I think Lucasfilm is a little more open to the idea of bringing in the prequels and referencing those and kind of making this like a bigger arc. And he's now tasked with finishing off the story of 9 movies. You know what I mean? Now we don't know if there's something down the line with 10, 11, 12.
Exactly. That's what I was going
Yeah.
And we know it's going to happen.
There's a good chance of that.
Eventually, yes.
But there's also the possibility that we don't see that for a very long time.
Yeah.
Or if ever, like maybe they do Old Republic stuff and they do a trilogy there. And then maybe instead of doing 10, 11, 12, they go, nope, 1 through 9 is the Skywalker story. And then now we're going to do, something else. It's not called episode blank. It's just like whatever it is. And then those will be sequels. Maybe create a new Star Wars universe while still in continuity, but not 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Mm-hmm. I could see them being like, let's do a new spin on this. Let's say 1 through 9 was Skywalker, and then let's create something different.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you guys this real quick then. Do you guys think episode 9 is going to end with a definitive Return of the Jedi, it's over? Or do you think it's going to be like a shot at the end with like a lightsaber slowly like moves a little bit and leaves a cliffhanger?
I think
it's over.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they did that with Return of the Jedi, and like even if they never came back to 7, 8, and 9, we would still have all the closure we would need. I mean, the Rebellion won, the Empire's dead, Anakin is redeemed, and Luke is a Jedi. Right. So I mean that's a satisfying conclusion to an incredible trilogy.
And they know what they're doing. Like 7 can be a cliffhanger, 8 can be a cliffhanger, 9 cut it off.
You can't.
Like you can't lead into another trilogy. You know.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be closure in each trilogy.
But could you?
If they're
I don't
Disney,
think they would.
You're the mouse. I mean, it's
I don't
possible.
know, man. I mean, okay, it's kind of hard to argue with anything that you're talking about in a world where Marvel has done 22 sequels. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 13th, the 18th. It doesn't matter. They're giving you a teaser into the next one every single time. So it's kind of hard to argue against that. But I really do think that the 3 is a powerful number, and I think they've gone on that for a while. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. And those stories are all going to end definitively. So
Until 10, 11, 12.
Until 10, 11, and 12. All right, guys. Now that we've talked a lot about 9, I want to go back and I want to talk a little bit about The Last Jedi. I have a question for you guys. Did I break a story?
Yes. Rockstar James Baney broke a story.
You're like
I think
Peter
I
Parker.
actually did break a story, a small story. Look, I'm going to tell you about it real quick. I went to the theaters last week and was greeted by 2 Last Jedi standees. You may have seen them. One dark and one light. Now, mind you, these were totally public, and yet I hadn't really seen anyone talking about them online, so I decided to snap a few pictures, and we posted them on the site. Now, obviously, these were similar to the other standees that IMAX had posted, but the images that they put up were too small, and you really couldn't notice any details. And so, up close, I saw 2 things that stuck out to me. One was that Poe was wearing a necklace that I had not seen in any other marketing. And now it may be a jewel or a stone or something like that, but it looked to me like it was a ring. And a ring on a necklace kind of symbolizes something, so I thought that was kind of interesting, and I thought that I would share. Secondly, unlike the IMAX poster, the Star Wars logo was actually moved to the bottom of the standee, and where it was before actually covered up part of the image. It was 3 or 4 of the Fathiers we'd seen from the behind-the-scenes reel, and one of them had Rose and Finn on its back, looking like they're either chasing something or maybe even being chased themselves. And I thought, why would they cover this up? You know what I mean? This is almost kind of like news. Like we haven't seen this image. So, Pat, I'm going to ask you, what in general, what are your thoughts on the standees and some of their revealing details?
Well, I really like these standees. They're good enough. They're not too big and bulky, so all theaters can accommodate these within their theater space, which I think is great because not a lot of theaters out there. I mean, most of our theaters we know are relatively good size, but not every theater is. There's some small theaters that still exist out there, so that was really nice to see. And of course, the ring around Poe's neck has me wondering maybe if that's going to come up in an upcoming Marvel comic before the film comes out, possibly. Maybe in the Poe Dameron line or something like that. So I want to wait and see how that ties in. Maybe that's something we absolutely have to wait for the movie to figure out what that's all about. But yeah, the thing with Rose and Finn, we had seen back from the secret photo shoot back during when they were filming in Dubrovnik. We did see Rose and Finn on a Fathier. So that was not a shock to me one bit because we knew that they were there together.
Yeah, I heard that. Now, this might be a spoiler, so I heard that Finn goes up to one of these Fathiers, and he said, "I'm choosing you to get away now." And another Fathier poked his head out of the stable and looked at Finn and said, "No, I am your Fathier."
Is it pronounced Fathier or Fathier?
Waka waka waka. Sorry.
Waka waka!
No, I love that you did a little Peter Parker action here and got these shots because they were definitely cool for the site, and they started circulating in other places, so good job, James. But something about this just screams chase scene to me because we saw the toys and the shots of those Canobite police speeders that look like almost like tarantula things, like they shoot out like 0 to 60. So they're going to be getting away, and I don't know if the shots of the other ones around them means that they're freeing all of these things, kind of like all right, you're all free, you're not going to be used for racing anymore.
It's a stampede,
yeah. But I wonder if it's kind of like how at Maz Kanata's castle, there's a spy with spies for the First Order at Canto Bight, and they spot Finn, and obviously DJ may get involved because we saw one of the action figures said DJ at Canto Bight.
Yeah,
So,
we know that's
I mean,
where he's been tying.
I just love the whole thing about Canto Bight is still such a mystery, and I think I like that because we're going to The Last Jedi without really knowing too much about it, but also getting some of this cool new imagery and creatures to whet our appetite, as Pat always likes to say. So the necklace thing, I have no idea. I mean, like you're saying, that could be out of a comic, it could be mean nothing. But I'm gonna let Bill. Bill loves jewelry, so I'm gonna let him take.
I
over
do.
here.
Listen, I like a good pearl. I like a good pearl necklace. It's all good. I actually think that this is his promise ring that he gives to Finn and that Finn gives to him. Finn has a corresponding one when he's on the Fathier, if you look, or the Father, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but kudos to James for finding this, because I have not seen one poster, any kind of standee thing that you found at any of the theaters that I go to. So it makes me really, really kind of jealous. As in terms of the Fathiers or whatever, I don't know what's
space horses.
Space horses, exactly. It will be really kind of. It'll be a nice change of pace in a Star Wars movie to see somebody riding something besides a starfighter, or anything like that. It reminds me of like in Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan's riding that, whatever that thing is called on Utapau. Mark it down. October 23rd, 2017. The ring that Poe is wearing is from Finn.
Wow.
Nope.
Mark it down.
Nope.
Mark it down.
Are you the same Bill Sheehy that thought that Luke Skywalker is not going to use a lightsaber in The Last Jedi?
Yes, the very same, because he's not going to use a damn lightsaber in The Last Jedi.
Sure. Just making
Get
sure.
out of here.
A montage
Get out
is
of
coming.
here.
A montage is coming.
And in the words of John Hoey, if I'm wrong, then we'll just delete it. It'll be fine.
And in the words of Bill Sheehy, in the words of Samuel L. Jackson, take a seat.
It's not that part yet, John!
We'll get there. About the poster and stuff, I will say I'm surprised you guys haven't seen it, because it was even to a point where I went to a theater and I saw it, and then the next day I went to a different theater and they also had the same standees. So I was like, how are these not like everywhere? But I guess I was the only person that had been posting about them. I didn't see that there was some other like leaked image or something you were talking about, Pat, of seeing Finn and Rose on one of these.
Yeah, it was back during the filming process at Dubrovnik. There was that one, and there was a short video clip of like a chase scene where they were going down the streets of Dubrovnik, and you heard a bunch of pow, 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 like VFX explosions. Like there was going to be a lot of shooting and explosions going on in sequence.
I had seen Finn sitting on one like from behind.
Which we thought that was just it. We didn't actually see Rose, but if you look closely, you can tell someone is sitting in front of him. So that's definitely Rose.
Oh, all right. Well, at least this is like an official confirmation. I mean, this is an officially released poster that we can look at and see that this definitely is going to be happening. It's not like a scene that they're going to delete or something. It most likely is going to make it into the movie. I can't imagine that would be a deleted scene and still make it onto the poster. It's pretty important to the actual movie.
If anyone tells you that it's not going to be in the movie, just reply, nothing could be fathier from the truth.
Welcome to the Dad Joke Podcast.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm turning 35, so I apologize.
Yeah, happy birthday, by the way. You will have turned 35 by the time this airs, so there you go.
That's only from James. That's not from me.
Yeah, okay. It's not from Bill.
It's not from me.
Sad birthday, John. Sad birthday. The final thing I want to talk about really quick is the ring thing. I was looking at it later after a couple people had pointed out that they didn't really even think it looked like a ring, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think it looked like anything but a ring. My first thought was, a wedding ring or a promise ring or some sort of like symbol of relationship in some means. I think Bill is way wrong on this.
Shh, James.
But it also could be something that he does have on him at different times, and it just happens to be hidden and most of the time. But you would think if that was the case, we would have seen it in Force Awakens. So I don't know. It might be something new.
It could be something from his mom, his dad. We have no idea. This could just be something completely aesthetic.
I feel like a specific space wizard named Luke Skywalker shows up, hands him the ring, and Podo Baggins has to fly his X-Wing to Mustafar to throw it into the volcano.
All right, so Newsnet is wrapping up.
Yeah. That was by far the most common comment I saw, is some sort of one ring to rule them all joke or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, get out of here. Let's get back to Star Wars. All right, well, that's all I got for the Newsnet. Send it back to you, Patrick.
Awesome scoops there, James. Now we're going to send it over to Mr. John Hoey for a Scoundrels Rundown.
Look, Pat, I forgot to do a Han Solo quote this week, so just punch it. Guys, Saw is back this October. No, not those horror movies. Although those are back for who knows what reason. I thought that guy died in like this second movie. But no, I'm talking about Saw Gerrera, guys. He is back, and he's going to be voiced by Forrest Whitaker, who portrayed him in Rogue One. He is back in Rebels today in 5 separate airings, and of course you can find the show on all the apps and all that stuff. I personally set my VCR to record it, so I'll watch it later. From the press release that we received on this, it said, as members of the Rebel Alliance, Ezra and the Ghost Crew must accept a mission to spy an Imperial outpost they'd rather destroy. After being separated from Hera and Kanan, Ezra and Sabine join the desperate quest of Saw Gerrera, voiced by Forrest Whitaker, to hunt down the Empire's elusive secret superweapon. Now the question, guys, is, will Whitaker's delivery be as over-the-top as it was in Rogue One? Like, what will you become? We'll find out today in the cartoon version. On to The Last Jedi stuff. DJ, the most mysterious new character heading into The Last Jedi, is going to be played by Benicio del Toro, but he won't be a mystery for long. In addition to his debut in the upcoming The Last Jedi, DJ is getting his own one-shot comic this winter. The comic will tell the tale of a day in the life of DJ just prior to his appearance in The Last Jedi. The comic will be written by Ben Acker and Ben Blacker, who are also working on the upcoming one-shot Star Wars The Last Jedi: The Storms of Crate. And it will be illustrated by Kev Walker, known for doing the Dr. Aphra comics. I'm sure after seeing him enter the fray in The Last Jedi, we'll have us itching to the bone to find out what he was up to prior to the events of The Last Jedi, so we'll be eager to pick that up as soon as it comes out this winter. Now, speaking of comics, let's check in with our buddies over at Comics with Kenobi for this week's comic reviews.
Hey, it's Matt Moore from Comics with Kenobi. Out this week was the conclusion to the Captain Phasma miniseries. What a 4-issue ride this has been. She is wholly without morality. She lacks integrity, and she will do anything and everything to cover her tracks and to ensure that she advances. It's a stirring ending, very thought-provoking, and it's a great lead-in to this December's The Last Jedi. In the pages of Poe Dameron number 20, we get the search, finally, to see where Thor San Tekka has gone and what took so long for Poe Dameron to find him. There's a great cutscene in there with BB-8. It gives new definition to what do you mean? What do you mean, that little flame thing? Is it a thumbs up or something else? And last but not least, we have Star Wars Adventures number 3. Great story about Finn, and again with Captain Phasma, but an even greater backup story in the Tales from Wild Space section that was co-written by Alan Tudyk, and it's about his character from Rogue One, K2SO. I think you'll enjoy them all. And of course, next week, on October 25th, we'll have the 3rd issue in the Mace Windu miniseries. That's it for now.
Thanks, Matt. Be sure to follow them at Comics with Kenobi on the Twitter. Now, on to video games. EA has shut down Visceral Games. An anticipated upcoming Star Wars game will be shifting to a new studio. After testing the game's concept with gamers, EA has decided to pull the plug on Visceral's project and move in a different direction. A quote from EA's Patrick Soderlund: "Throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to their feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design." Now, the game was slated to be released at the end of fiscal year 2019, and it will have a new release date announced, I guess, once it's reestablished with a new studio. But I hope Battlefront 2 is great for all you gamers out there, because it sounds like this one is going to be a while off. And our final rundown story, actor Noah Segan has been confirmed to have a small role in The Last Jedi. I know, so many questions, right? Well, mainly one, who is Noah Segan? Segan has appeared in all of Rian Johnson's feature films and even made a cameo in the Breaking Bad episode Ozymandias that he directed. Now, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who previously confirmed to have a voice acting role in The Last Jedi, had some fun on Twitter, which ultimately ended with the realization that Segan is continuing the trend of appearing in all of Johnson's features. Now, it's unclear what type of role he has, but if this guy and Greg Grunberg are any indication of a trend, note to self, become friends with people you think might direct a Star Wars movie one day, because you'll definitely get a part in the movie. And that's probably why Clint Howard became such good friends with Ron Howard. For the complete articles to these stories, as always, go to StarWarsNewsNet.com, the best place for all Star Wars-related news and information. And listen, next time you want to talk to me, come see me yourself. Don't send one of these twerps. Chewie, get us out of here.
What an awesome rundown, John. Not. Nah, just kidding with you, John. Great, thanks. Next up, we're doing something really special. You may know him as the voice of Tarkin, or Radis, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Meeber Gascon. We got to sit down with the great Steven Stanton. Woo! Woo! Mr. Stanton has done incredible voice work, and we had the chance to ask him about his career, especially his work in the world of Star Wars. Let's take a listen.
Your first voice acting credit came in 2000's Titan AE, and many of your early film credits were in the visual effects department, doing things like digital camera operations and computer graphics. So, did you always know you had a gift doing voice acting? And is it something you always wanted to get into and practice on your own, or was it something someone else sort of, I guess, realized in you? And bottom line, when did you become aware that you had that talent and finally decide to pursue it?
Well, that's gotta go way back on this. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with all forms of storytelling, but most especially when I got introduced to animation on television and in films. The first film that I saw was that I can remember seeing was Bambi, and on TV I was always fascinated by all the Warner Brothers cartoons, listening to Bugs Bunny, and Daffy Duck and all those characters and just wanting to imitate them because I thought it was fun. At that time in my life, I had no realization that there was somebody doing that, a normal person, and that was their job. That was just, those were cartoons and they were real to me. And as I got older, my focus became getting into film school and directing films. I had been doing that with my friends in junior high school, and that just kind of led into me wanting to be a storyteller myself. And when I was in film school, I got the opportunity to do voiceover and narration for other people's projects, because we all volunteered to work on each other's films. It was kind of the way it is. Everybody got to be the director of their project, but then everyone else was your crew, and then it all switched around, and you got to be the crew for somebody else doing what it is that you thought you did best. So that kind of blossomed out of me doing it for film school and then getting out into the real world and getting production jobs and crew jobs on films and in small studios. And whenever there was an opportunity to do a scratch track, which is kind of a temporary voiceover track, or someone needed somebody to put a voice on something, I always volunteered. And it kind of grew out of that until it became the thing that I was focused on. It's like they say, life is what happens when you're making other plans.
That does sound like fun, actually. Very sporadic, but still really cool. Let me actually ask you a quick follow-up question. How much influence do you have over the characters? I mean, how much does Dave Filoni kind of let you do your own thing on?
Well, your influence is really based on your acting choices. In an audition, one of two things can happen. You get your sides, your script, and you turn in your audition, and it's exactly what the director or the producer was thinking of. That's the voice they heard in their head when they were trying to cast this, and you just nailed it. And now they've chosen you to be that character. Or you may give them something that they hadn't thought of, which gets the wheels turning in another direction, but they really like that, and they cast you because you gave them something new and something different than what they were thinking of. Now, other times you're offered a role, and when you get to the session, then you start to work it out with the director. They may say, okay, this is what the character is like, this is what the character looks like, these are their character attributes, what do you think that character would sound like? And then you give them your best choice based on what you've just heard and seen, and you go back and forth until you arrive at something that the director and the producer think fits for that character. And this happens in sessions sometimes right there, and you don't know anything about the character. Many times when you're doing multiple characters, you'll just throw something at you and say, oh, can you do this character too? It's a such and such. It's an alien, or it's a person, or it's the captain of a ship, or it's whatever it could be. And you have to come up with something right there on the spot without having any prior knowledge of the character, maybe never having even seen the script until that day, which was very common with the Clone Wars sessions. So, yeah, you have to be on your toes. You have to be able to think fast, go with your gut, go with your instinct, and just kind of let it all come out. And that doesn't go just for Dave Filoni. This is across the board with a lot of directors. Now, some directors may say, this is exactly what I want and don't deviate from it. But most directors are very open. They want to hear new ideas. That's why they don't want to give you a lot of information, because they don't want to influence you too much. They want to hear what your gut reaction is, what your instincts tell you, because you may have something that's perfect and fits right into the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, that's awesome. Pat, you had a few questions, didn't you?
Yes, I do. So, you portrayed both Grand Moff Tarkin and Old Ben Kenobi recently in Star Wars Rebels. So, how do you go about preparing for this voice acting role where you play an existing character in universe? Did you spend a lot of time studying old performances of Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness? Or is this something that just naturally comes to you?
Now we're talking about a very special aspect of voice acting called voice matching, which is trying to duplicate the sound of another actor and get inside their head, figure out what kind of performance would they be bringing to this character if they were here. In this case, Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness. And I've done this for a lot of films over my career. I did it for Roger Ebert, the film critic, for the documentary Life Itself. I've done it for the race announcer Chick Anderson in the movie Secretariat. And it goes on and on. There's a lot of times where you're called in to voice match an actor. Many times it's done because the film is in post-production. They need to do some looping or ADR, and the actor is no longer available. They could be on the other side of the world in a new movie, and they just can't be on that looping stage to re-record new material. So I have to come in and work with the director of the film and replace that actor for a day, several days, a week, a month, however much time it takes to get all of this done and get the film completed. In all of these cases, you're always wanting to reference the material that the performance is based on. In Star Wars Rebels, of course, I'm going back to the original Star Wars film, the very first one that came out in 1977, and I'm looking at those performances for Grand Moff Tarkin and for Old Ben Kenobi. For Star Wars The Clone Wars, I was doing a younger Tarkin, so I went back even further in Peter Cushing's career and studied his earlier films, the Hammer horror films, and specifically settled on his Sherlock Holmes performance because I thought that had the right amount of irascibility and that would make him sound like a young Tarkin, someone who's a bit of a know-it-all and in your face, but is many times right. I thought that was a nice template to start with young Tarkin. In feature films, many times I will be asked to sit down and watch a reel of the film, of the actor's performance, to get into the groove, to figure out what it is they're doing. Are they doing an accent? What is this character all about? You can't just go in and look at somebody like Russell Crowe or Liam Neeson or any number of actors, and you can't do the same thing each time because they're not doing the same thing each time in their films. So it requires two things. It requires the ability to duplicate another person's voice, and it also requires excellent acting chops. You've got to be able to pull it off. People have to believe that you are that character.
Which, by the way, you are really good at. Seeing and hearing Old Ben in Star Wars Rebels was the highlight for many of us fans in that third season of Rebels. Perhaps very few people know that you actually voiced Old Ben in the Battlefront 2 game back in 2005, and again in the game Empire at War. Can you compare the three projects, and which performance stood out to you the most?
Video games, as opposed to television shows and feature films, are very different because although they have a story with a beginning and an end, the middle is sort of created on the fly by the decisions that the player is making. So you turn left, you turn right, you go straight ahead down the hallway, you open a door, don't open a door, pick up a weapon, don't pick up a weapon. All these decisions will inform the storyline. So when you're going in as an actor to record for a video game, usually you have page upon page upon page, all of them full of single lines of dialogue that are all based on reacting to whatever the player is doing. So you're not really interacting with other characters in the story like you would like in Star Wars Rebels. Ben Kenobi is dealing with Ezra and he's dealing with Maul. He's not dealing with the audience specifically because the audience isn't a part of the story the same way they would be in a video game. And I would also have to say that the first game that I did Ben Kenobi in was done in 2004. That was 13 years ago. I was a lot younger. And my voice has aged just naturally with time. It has more gravitas. It has more of the sort of wear and tear of life on it. And it's easier to get into that older man voice than it was 13 years ago. But as far as the performances go, you almost can't compare them because it's apples and oranges. Video games and television shows and feature films are very different animals.
So, Steven, you've tackled video games. Let's move on to film a little bit. We are just under 2.5 months away from The Last Jedi. And not a lot of people know this, but one of your numerous voice credits is actually Rian Johnson's Looper. So how familiar are you with Rian, and have you ever gotten the chance to meet him?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have met Rian. I got a chance to meet him while I was working on Rogue One, recording Admiral Raddus. I believe it was the first day that we were recording. We were over there on the Disney stages, and during the middle of the session, Rian stopped by to say hi and see what was going on, and so I got a chance to meet him, shake his hand. He is a very friendly, very upbeat, and very enthusiastic guy, and I was really thrilled that I was able to meet him under those circumstances while I was recording Rogue One.
I feel like that's what we keep hearing about Rian Johnson, that he's this down-to-earth, good guy, and I'm glad to hear that you kind of had that same experience too. So let's transition away from Star Wars for us a little bit. So can you tell us about some of your upcoming projects outside of the Star Wars universe and some characters that you're playing?
There's a lot of things that I'm working on right now that are very exciting, but they're also very confidential, so I can't really say too much about them. But I can talk about a couple of projects, one of them being Tom and Jerry for Warner Brothers Animation. They have designed these animated shorts to look very much like the original 1940s and 50s cartoons that Hanna-Barbera did for MGM Studios. They have a lot of the same characters, including some from that expanded MGM cartoon library that includes Tex Avery characters. And we've also got some new characters. We've got Rick and Ginger. These are Tom's owners in this world. I play Rick among many other characters in this universe. So if you like the old school Tom and Jerry's and you like that humor, the sound effects, the music cues, you're going to see a lot of that in this version of the series. And I'm also working on Lost in Oz on Amazon Prime, the premise of which is, what if the classic Oz stories took place in modern times? We still have Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion, but all of this is taking place within the modern era. So it's a lot of fun. The writing is fantastic. The characters are great. The animation is just completely off the charts. You have to see it to believe it. Our creators come from a live-action background and worked on shows like Smallville and Heroes, so they bring a different sensibility to this animated series. And if you love the original Oz books, there are connections, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I think people that love the classic books and have read those classic books are going to see characters that they never saw in any of the films, and it all connects in a very unique and intriguing way. And we have a wonderful cast. Ashley Betcher is Dorothy. We have Allison Mack, Gina Gershon, Nika Futterman, Fred Tatasciore, Eric Bauza, Jorge Diaz. It is a wonderful cast, and it's a great show for kids. We actually won an Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program this year, so if you get a chance, check it out on Amazon. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Well, first off, congrats on the Emmy. That's awesome, and we'll certainly be checking that out on Amazon. Now, we at Star Wars Newsnet and certainly most, if not all of our readers think you're probably one of the best things to happen to Star Wars in a long time, as you continue to just lend your incredible talent to the franchise that we love. We're big fans, obviously. So should your fans be excited for The Last Jedi and or Han Solo? And without revealing anything, can you say if you're working on any future Lucasfilm projects?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for those very kind words. It has been an honor for me to have been able to contribute to the Star Wars saga in the feature films, the animated series, and the video games. Who would have thought? I certainly would have never thought that in 1977 that I would be contributing to those stories 40 years later. As a fan, it's very exciting to be part of something that I enjoyed so much as a kid. And as a fan, I'm very excited about The Last Jedi and the Han Solo movie and everything else they have in the works. This is really one of the best times to be a fan of Star Wars. There's so many good things coming our way. So I'm just very grateful as a fan and also someone who has had the opportunity to work with Lucasfilm and Disney on telling these stories. So once again, thank you, Star Wars Newsnet, for these wonderful questions, and may the Force be with you and your readers always.
If you would like to check out even more from the interview, please visit StarWarsNewsNet.com. We'll have an article with the full transcript from the interview, including questions we don't have time for on the show. Now let's head over to Bill Sheehy for Is the Force With You?
In the words of the immortal Samuel L. Jackson in Revenge of the Sith, take a seat. Our first story tonight is about Star Wars Rebels Season 4. The new season has debuted in Heroes of Mandalore Parts 1 and 2. And let's go ahead and give our thoughts on it. So go ahead, John. Is the Force with you on Star Wars Rebels Season 4 debut?
I watched this. I know you guys are big Rebels fans, but this didn't do anything for me.
Really?
I saw you reacted to it like you were really on board with it. So I don't know. I just feel a disconnect there. Maybe it's the Mandalore thing. I'm not in with them. But I felt detached from this. I felt myself wanting to go to my phone and kind of like look away, and I wasn't sucked in. So that was my first take. I have a feeling that this season is going to be pretty kick-ass. So maybe they're just trying to set things up for payoff later. But initial response to that first hour didn't really do it for me. But that's just my first reaction. Maybe on a second viewing, I'll like it a little more. But I'll have to say the Force is not with me there.
James, is the Force with you on the Season 4 debut?
Yeah, the Force has to be with me, and I mean, I love Rebels, and I'm excited that this is going to be the final season. They're going to wrap up everything. As far as these episodes are concerned, I did like it, but I will say when I tried to compare all four of them, there's Spark of Rebellion, Siege of Lothal, Steps into Shadow, and then now Heroes of Mandalore, it's hard to beat Siege of Lothal, Yeah. And I think that it's kind of unfortunate because I would like to see these all step up, but when Season 3 came out, I was like, was that better than Siege of Lothal? Not, but that had Vader in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
This is the same reason. I look at this and I was like, okay, where does this fall into that line? And like, I don't know, it was really interesting to get to see Thrawn, but I will say I don't feel like we got anything new in this episode other than a little bit of, we finally got the answer of this weapon that Sabine had made, that had been teased for a long time. And they actually got me with the cliffhanger between the two episodes. So, I was actually pulled in on that. So I got to say that the Force is with me on this.
Patrick Covey, is the Force with you on the Season 4 debut?
Yeah, the Force is definitely with me on this one. I gotta go with James on this. It wasn't as eventful as we were kind of expecting for a season premiere, but I feel like for me personally, I had watched the end of Season 3 right before I viewed this, and I considered this opening of the season more as a transitional, like a supplement to the end of Season 3. It fit a lot better with the story there and how Ezra went to go get Sabine's help, and now he's returning the favor to Sabine. It just felt natural that way. So if you're going to watch it, if you haven't already seen it, I highly recommend go back and watch like the last 4 episodes of Season 3 and then watch the first episodes of Season 4. It makes so much more sense. It feels a little bit more natural.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Force is with me on this. I loved this episode. And I know it may not have been as eventful as you guys said, and I know completely understand why you didn't enjoy it, John. But for me, this season is going to be about the characters. And I think we got more character development over the past season in Sabine than we've gotten the entire series. And to see her story continue, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a part where her work that she's the weapon that she's worked on comes full circle, and her coming to terms with that and continuing her journey and becoming this leader who she's supposed to be was really, really cool for me. I've never been a fan of like the whole Mandalorian thing. I've never really understood why people loved it as much as they have. I do now. For whatever reason, just seeing what happens at the end with the different clans was really, really cool to see. So the Force is 100% with me on this. All right, let's move on to the next story.
Well, wait a minute, Bill. Didn't you want to make a little mini announcement?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, John. So, due to a clerical error from Walmart Corporation, I have come in possession of a Black Series Ahsoka Tano 6-inch figure that I want to give away to somebody in the Resistance.
Really? Me?
Really. This is 100% true. This is happening right now. But yes, I want to give away this Ahsoka Black Series to you guys. So to enter, we'll tweet out how to enter, but just know that a Black Series figure is coming this week. So be ready for that.
Follow our Twitter account and Bill will fire that up for you.
Yes, sir. All right. So thank you. Watch out for that. On to the next story. So, if anything has ever gone wrong in the Star Wars universe, at least in the expanded universe, the old EU, there were two people you could usually blame. Tag and Bink. And it was revealed on Twitter this week by Ron Howard that none other than Tag and Bink themselves will have a small part in the Han Solo movie. So guys, first of all, do you know who Tag and Bink is? And is the Force with you on them being in the Han Solo film? John, start with you.
I just like saying Tag and Bink. I think that's funny. And I love saying Standy, too. I should have said that earlier. It's fun to say Standy. I took a picture of a Standy. No, I didn't know who Tag and Bink were. I'll admit that. I'm not a big EU person as it is, and I guess this was even a parody comic or something like that they like shoehorn these guys into all big parts from A New Hope. But I kind of caught up on it a little bit thanks to our article that we posted at Star Wars Newsnet. It seems fun, and they're probably going to be one of those quick little cameos, because I guess John Kasdan himself is going to be one of them, either Tag or Bink. So they're probably going to walk by and they'll say Tag or something like that, kind of like how we saw Ponda Baba in Rogue One type of thing. So it'll be a fun little nod for EU fans and those comic fans. The Force is with me. It's a cool little nod. It's not going to be a big deal. And it'll just be another fun thing in the upcoming awesome #Untitled Han Solo movie.
Awesome. Patrick Covey, is the Force with you on this?
Yeah, the Force is definitely with me on this one. Anything that can take something from the EU that was really funny, or something that just fits the story well, just to have a little bit of levity, is a really good thing for the current canon situation right now. Because without levity in Star Wars, it wouldn't be Star Wars.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. And finally, James Bainey, is the Force with you on Tag and Binks? Am I saying that right?
I think
No.
it's just Tag and Bink.
Okay.
But
Binks.
Stop trying to make Binks happen. It's not going to happen.
Tag and Jar Jar.
Misa?
Force is not with me. Nope, not at all. If this was Legends and somebody told me, hey, there's this comic book, and I mean, there was this comic book and stuff, and they were doing these adventures, I like that idea. I think that's fun. I think it's kind of like an outside world thing. Like, what if all these problems really were because of these two guys? And how the heck did they manage to end up in every pivotal moment of the entire galaxy civil war? It seems kind of crazy. As far as it actually being canon and trying to make it real, absolutely not. I don't want these guys in here at all. I don't want any sort of explanation that they're around. I don't want fans thinking that that the things that happened in Legends canon that were a joke, that were supposed to just be funny, may have actually happened. I don't want that in the conversation at all. I don't mind the idea of there being a little bit of levity, but not at the expense of having these characters around that have done all these things in previous situations. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, the comic's fine, but not in new canon, not in a world that everything has to be truth and connected. So Force is not with me on Jar Jar Binks and Mr. Tag there.
The Force is muy with me on... No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I once again, I don't know who Tag and Bink are, so the Force is kind of neither with or not with me. So the Force is kind of with meh on this one. So let's go on to the next story. We got a brand new Battlefront 2 trailer today that just focused on Iden Versio in the single-player campaign. I saw the trailer, really liked it. James, let me go ahead and go back to you and get your thoughts on it. Is the Force with you on this new Battlefront 2 single-player trailer?
Yes, the Force is with me. Although I will say I watched it and I was like so pumped and I was like, man, this is awesome. And then I just kind of like was like, oh man, but the Last Jedi trailer was so much better.
Yeah.
But I was like really excited about this. This was cool. And there were a lot of really cool shots in there. There's the Leia on Naboo thing, which a lot of people are pointing out. Now, granted, she's been there before, but this looked like older Leia. Although I'm trying to figure out exactly when all this stuff takes place, because if the main storyline is right after Return of the Jedi, then why is old Leia there? I don't know. That's just kind of confusing to me. But it was nice to see that. It was nice to see things from Battlefront that are actually canon. This is part of the story mode. And not just like, oh my gosh, Darth Maul fighting Yoda. You know what I mean? That doesn't really mean anything to me.
Absolutely.
To actually see things that I'm like, okay, these are things that are new canon, like a new book, a new comic, a new movie coming out. So overall, yeah, the Force is with me.
John Hoey, is the Force with you on the Battlefront 2 trailer?
Yeah, the Force is with me. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to play this game. We'll see. But the scene itself, the trailer itself is really cool. I actually am down to just watch all of the movie scenes from this as a story, even. Mm-hmm. I was impressed with the graphics. I thought they were just unbelievable. I loved, like James was just talking about that shot of Naboo with what we believe is Leia. Seeing a shuttle carrying AT-ATs, like that's... I never knew how they got those things on the ground. I was like, that is awesome. So these things just kind of cruising with the dangling AT-ATs and just go drop them. All right, guys, start walking. It's like, that's kind of cool. So overall, I really dug the graphics.
Do you think we'll get that in The Last Jedi?
I hope so. That was awesome. I thought that was so cool. I mean, is that something? Did you guys know how they got those things on the ground?
That was the first time everyone knows how that happens, John.
I didn't know that. All of a sudden, I see that
JK.
thing with those things dangling. That was pretty cool. But long story short, I dig it. It may push me to buy a PS4, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, dude, the Force is with me.
And Pat, is the Force with you on this?
Yes, this one's definitely with me. I thoroughly enjoyed the trailer. And if you guys didn't get the chance to, I know a bunch of the content creators who've been invited to do stuff with the game and to help promote the game. They've all released footage from the game today of 3 different missions from the single player, so you can get a quick glimpse into the actual single player itself. Those were really fun to watch as well.
Awesome. So for me, the Force is definitely with me on this. I am very, very, very excited to play the single player campaign. I really loved the multiplayer beta that I just played for Battlefront 2, and I'm really excited to go on and play the single player because I've been dying for Star Wars video game canon that means something. So the Force is with me on that one. So our last story that we're going to talk about today is that Ellen DeGeneres and John Hoey are in the same sentence. So this week, EllenTube revealed a new photo of Admiral Holdo with the Resistance, and they revealed it on Ellen. And then, in an article by Screen Rant, our very own John Hoey was credited as a source, which means that he's on to the big time, and this is probably his last episode.
Let's hope.
I'm gonna be in the sequel to Finding Dory.
There you go.
I'm gonna play a father in Dory.
A father in Finding Dory. All right, awesome. So, John, since you broke the story, is the Force with you with Admiral Holdo with the Resistance? And what's happening here?
I mean, that was just right place, right time, and I threw it up there on Twitter, and then it caught fire. So, but it was cool just seeing Source Ellen and John Obi. I sent it to my mom. She's like, "What, Ellen?
The Ellen DeGeneres?
That Ellen?" Ellen's probably like, "Who the John Hoey?"
There's no way Ellen saw that.
The Force is with me on this. The picture looks cool. A lot of people pointed out stuff in the background. As I was putting the article together, on the comments of the tweet of the photo itself, a lot of our readers pointed out that an actress, Elizabeth Barrington, might have been spotted there on the right.
Yeah.
Eamon Elliott, who was in The Force Awakens, looks like he's in the back there. Vober Dand, who doesn't get enough credit. He's a cool-looking creature who was in The Force Awakens. He's there chilling next to 2BB2, which is another BB unit for the Resistance. One of the flat tops. He kind of looks more like the BB-9E, the evil version with the flat top there. But it all looks good to me. I think Holdo's going to be a big part of this movie, bigger than we think, and possibly building up to her being an even bigger part for Episode 9, so she may get really involved in JJ's story. But overall, absolutely, man, this photo is cool. I liked everything that everyone's saying about it and what it could mean, and we'll get a little bit more to that in a few minutes, but the Force is with me.
James Bainey, is the Force with you on this picture?
Oh, absolutely, the Force is with me. I'm a big fan of her already, just from Leia, Princess of Alderaan. We'll talk a little bit more about what I think her role in the movie is going to be, but I think the photo was important. I think somebody also mentioned, too, that there were 4 women in a Star Wars photo, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think that this picture was a smart one to put out there because it really doesn't give away anything. I think the discussion of clearly she's doing this, or clearly this is what's happening in the scene, really was pretty open to interpretation. So I'm excited about what we're going to get into here in a minute. But for the photo alone, the Force is definitely with me.
Awesome. And Patrick Covey, is the Force with you on this?
Yes, the Force is with me on this photo. It was nice to see all these returning characters, like the one John was just saying in the photo. We get another BB unit in here, which everyone was drooling, I think, more over the BB unit than actually Holdo, which is pretty ironic. And then, of course, you got all these famous actors and people who've returned to the cast who are in the background there, so that's really cool. It almost looks like a Resistance, class reunions going on here, and Holdo's the class president. It's welcome back to the Resistance class reunion of whatever, ABY.
Anyway, the Force is with me on this. I like purple hair, and I love the BB unit in the back, so the Force is with me on this. And that's all I have today. So thank you for taking a seat with us. Patrick, off to you, bud.
Awesome job, Bill. Now we're going to move on to Tweeting with the Resistance. This is the segment of our show where we select some tweets from the Twitterverse, of course, relating to a certain topic we pick for the week. And the topic we chose this week was that photo of Vice Admiral Holdo, and it was revealed on Ellen. And we wanted to hear your takeaways, observations, and speculation. John, what's your pick this week?
All right, so I picked the tweet by Paul Buckle at Buck1E. I guess Buckle was taken, so he did the whole 1 is going to be my L, so it's Buckle, but it's Buck1E, just to clarify. So Paul said, looks like someone is implementing some sort of coup d'etat after something has happened to Leia Organa. Now, I picked it because he said coup d'etat, because that always gets me excited. It's like something's going on. We're going to get the plot going. We're going to turn...
A big coup fan, are we, John?
I'm a big coup fan. And things are going to get turned upside down here. There's a real plot brewing, and I kind of like that. Being kind of... You feel like you're in the Resistance, in that scene. That room's a circular room. There's a big plot going on. Maybe there's a screen that pops up, and things are pointed here, pointed there. You have a creature going like, oh, what are we going to do now? Stuff like that. that. I don't know. This tweet kind of jumped out at me like something that could really turn into a cool scene and something developing from the resistance in the form of a coup d'état. So thank you, Paul, for that tweet.
James, what's your pick this week?
My pick this week was from Sean Sullivan at Suit Up Sully. And the reason I picked his tweet was because he was probably the only person in all of the comments that I really felt like might actually, or actually kind of nailed it, I think. He said it was very reminiscent of the Return of Jedi scene with Mon Mothma speaking to the Alliance. And the reason I say he nailed it is because he was the only person that seemed to think, or at least alluded to the idea that Holdo is not a villain or some type of antagonist. And if you guys, and I don't know how many people have read Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
I'm still reading it.
Blah.
It's not a spoiler. I'm gonna tell you just about the character and who she is. She's not a villain. She is a friend, true and through. Like, there is no animosity towards Leia. There's no sort of like push for political power. There's no sort of like, well, this is the right thing to do and I'm taking over the resistance. None of that. She is so different than what I think everybody thinks she's going to be, which is what Anthony Bresnikan said in the articles a long time ago. DJ and Holdo may not be exactly who they appear. And I think everybody seems to think this character is going to be somebody who is some sort of like, I'm taking over the resistance character. And honestly, having read the book, there's no way. There's no way. That doesn't line up with her personality at all. It doesn't line up with who they're designing her to be. And if she does end up doing that or has some sort of clash against the resistance or Poe or Leia herself, it just flies in the face of everything they did with the book. And so that just doesn't make any sense to me. Mark it down here. She's not an enemy. So that's why I picked him, because I think Mon Mothma is a good example of somebody in power who's a leader and is no enemy to the good guys, if you will.
Which, after seeing that preview of Rebels, # Angry Mon Mothma coming up. And
So
she's
many
not a bad
hashtags.
person. So, Bill, what was your pick this week?
My pick this week comes from our friend on the Twitter at Han_Spinal. Can't stop admiring that blue BB unit in the background. Glad to see the droids here because all this # Porglove has got BB-8 like, and then he gave a gif like, "Aw." I agree. You know that my brain, as soon as I saw that picture, I didn't see Holdo. I saw BB unit. Got really, really excited. So yeah, just seeing more of things like BB-8, seeing more world building, seeing all this stuff. There's a picture's worth 1,000 words, and there's so much in this one picture that is just incredible. So I'm very excited to see this in the film.
Especially if it's a coup d'etat.
Exactly. That's a fun word to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like saying fathier or standy.
Yeah.
I took a picture of a standy.
That's a really good impression of James Bainey.
Just because I took a picture of a standee.
I'm drinking my sweet tea.
Sweet
I
tea.
have I don't know, I'm going to call this maybe a 24 ounce of Raisin Cane's chicken finger sweet tea right here.
Chicken, what combo you picking? Chicken, what combo you picking? Chicken.
Speaking of picking, Pat, who's your pick?
My pick this week comes from at Ren Kylo Ben. Ooh, I see what you did there. Last name first, first name last. Alright, so the tweet this week was something has happened to Leia, so she takes over. The Resistance are not really keen on her, and this is where Poe Dameron steps up. I chose this one because I didn't feel like maybe this was a coup d'etat situation with Leia, but maybe that Leia has become incapacitated or something's going on with Leia, so she cannot lead the charge. So this is where she calls on her friend, Vice Admiral Holdo, to help assist in the situation. Or maybe she's thrust into the situation to where she needs to help her friend Leia because Leia can't help in this time in need. And Poe Dameron is going to step up and take his rightful place as a leader for the Resistance and help assist Holdo in this very hard and trying time.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like it doesn't, just because she doesn't have to walk in and everything be all hunky-dory. Like, and it doesn't mean people have to hate each other. So he could question her because he's used to following Leia and she may do things differently. That would just make it more interesting to me. So that was my take on this whole thing. So like people are like, why can't her and Leia just be friends? Why do they have to be fighting? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, why can't it be a little gray area there? But I liked all these tweets. So thanks again for all you guys submitting those. You guys are awesome.
It's so awesome to have people who will answer our questions and answer what we want, just for the podcast. Keep continuing to put your thoughts out there. We're reading them all. We're just, unfortunately for time, having to just pick like some of the best answers or the ones that we feel like will kind of lead the discussion. So if you've got something interesting to say, please say it to us. Let us know.
Like James said, we read every single one of them. So just keep on tweeting and we will keep on looking and we'll keep responding. Thank you guys.
And if you would like your tweets read on the podcast, like these guys said, definitely send us your thoughts your way. If we have an interesting topic you want to give your thoughts out, go ahead and post below. More than likely, if it's interesting enough, it will end up on this podcast. And while you're tweeting at us, or maybe you don't know where we're located on the web, go to Twitter and follow us at RBATSWNN. That's Resistance Broadcast at Star Wars Newsnet. We are the official podcast of Star Wars Newsnet. Go ahead and give us a follow over there. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please subscribe if you like the podcast and give us a rating. Let us know what you think, if there's something you think we can improve on for the podcast in the future to make your listening experience better. Let us know. Your thoughts and opinions really do matter to us. And while you're at it, you can follow all of us over on the Cantina Forum and become a part of the bigger Star Wars discussion. Head over to StarWarsNewsNet.com. In the top left corner, you'll see a button that says the Cantina Forum. Go in there, sign up for a free account, and you will be pushed into an awesome, amazing world of fans and discussion 24/7, 365. John, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter, being nice and polite to people, at Johnny Hoey. And you could find me writing articles every week at StarWarsNewsNet.com. Thanks to Steven Stanton for taking the time to do this interview with us and answer all these questions. I hope you guys really enjoyed his answers. I had a lot of fun again this week. Hopefully, I'm going to say go Yankees right now, so hopefully they're still in and they're in the World Series when this airs. If not, I'll be a sad, newly turned 35-year-old. But may the Force be with you guys. Be kind, be nice. Love yous.
Mr. James Baney, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at my house watching the next episode of Star Wars Rebels on tonight. Saw Gerrera, Mon Mothma. It's going to be a good one. I'm really excited. If you guys want to talk about it, you can reach out to me on Twitter at MyraTrunks, MIRAHTRUNKS, and I'm also on Instagram under the same name if you guys want to reach out to me there. I'm a little more likely to accept you as a friend. I'm just kidding. No, but I'll talk to you either way on whatever platform you want.
Mr. Bill Sheehy, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. That is a Star Wars reference. Thank you guys so much for listening. Talk to me on the Twitters. Follow me, talk to me, do whatever you want. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Hashtag CatsBy90. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much.
Bill, what did you just say?
I have no idea.
Just kidding.
I lost track after CatsBy90.
I was like, what the heck is he even hashtagging
Bill
right now?
lost track after Take a Seat.
Take a seat. That's right. It's all been a blur. It's like I don't know what happened.
Oh, and look for our tweet for Bill's giveaway.
Yeah. Look out for the giveaway. Ahsoka Tano, Fulcrum herself can be yours. Just pay out. Look out for that.
And, of course, you can find me on Twitter at Ganon136 and under the same name over on the Cantina Forum. Please, if you have something you want to talk to us one-on-one about, you can always PM all of us on Twitter or over at the official Resistance Broadcast Twitter account. And we'll be glad to respond to your questions and comments. Guys, I think that about does it for this week. Thank you so much to Steven Stanton and Comics with Kenobi for coming on again once this week.
Hey, Akbar, the voice of Radis was on our show today. How do you feel about it?
It's a wrap!